we were interested in having a catch up with Martyn Bomber Bradbury on Saturday night. It didn't really come together. I believe there was a whiskey bottle or something, and crawling to the bottom of might have been a part of it. I'm not entirely sure, so let's find out from the man himself. Bomber, good evening, sir, and welcome to the show.
Comrades, kia ora, how are you all?
Good, good. Was it a whiskey bottle?
Right.
What was it?
It was a huge bong. It was a massive bong. So less whiskey, more bong. No, it was my wake turned into a weekend bender, of which I've only crawled out of the grief cave now. The result is a lot worse than looks a lot worse than it is. When the specials come in, you're talking there'll be over 20% of the total vote. That will bump Labour up. We know how the specials usually go in terms of demographics. It'll give the Greens something. It'll give the Māori Party something, and it'll give Labour. It'll take from National. It'll take from New Zealand First. What you'll end up with, the most likely outcome. This isn't gospel fact, but the most likely outcome will be New Zealand National and ACT relying on New Zealand First. They'll need to have all three of them to try and form a government, and it's already becoming quite apparent how difficult that process is going to be.
But also, Marty, in your opinion, better for New Zealand with New Zealand First in or out? Like, will they cause enough? Will they be a handbrake, for example, on the foreign buyers tax that will maybe not inflate the market, or will they cause so much chaos? And I don't think any of us believe that what Winston says pre-election is what he's going to do, like the penis patrol and Winston's winky wankers going and checking everybody's genitals at the. I don't think anyone thinks he's going to do that. It was to get him elected. So what he's going to do and what he's going to be involved with versus what he's not. Better to have him in as a handbrake if he is. I'm not putting that there as a positive, or better to have him out altogether. What do you think?
And that's a great question, because it's the one that everyone's trying to focus on right now. And the problem is, National have built their entire economic model on a house of cards using the foreign buyers' revenue base, right? Now, Winston is diametrically opposed to lifting the foreign buyers ban. I mean, it would be like the Greens voting for nuclear power, right?
Yeah.
It's never, ever going to happen. But because the donors behind National, the real estate pimps, have pumped so much money, and this is the result they want, everything's dependent on getting this through. And because Winston will just go, no way are you getting that, there will be, I think, an enormous pressure from within ACT and National to say, screw it. We go to the public and say Winston won't negotiate for the betterment of New Zealand. We have no other choice. We'll have to go to a second election.
Wow. How, because we're listening to May Chen from last week, constitutional lawyer, and basically she was like, never happened before, won't happen now. Are you thinking it's a significant possibility?
I think that National are so dependent on this bloody lifting the foreign buyers ban, just so dependent on it, that if they don't have it, they can't do their tax cuts. That they can't fund any of the things that they want to do, and their entire economic plan falls over. So they have to get this foreign buyers ban through. Winston won't do that at all, and I think what they will end up doing, ACT and National, if they can't get this, is they'll say, well, we can't form a government. You give Chris Hipkins a call, and Winston will have to go across to Chris Hipkins and see if they can talk about something there. But Chippy's already ruled him out. So how that plays out, everything is going to rest on the foreign buyers ban. Nothing else matters. That's the only thing. And whether or not Winston would sell that off for baubles, I just don't think he could. I don't think he realistically could.
What do you reckon, Chewy?
So if that linchpin gets taken out, which, I mean, we've all been saying right from the get-go, doesn't work, math doesn't stack up, it's wishy thinking.
Right.
Then that comes back to the real crux of the thing of laying off a whole bunch of people to get the $20 a fortnight that we've all been promised.
right?
So it's going to be a bloodbath. But then that brings Winston back in again. I wouldn't exactly call Winston a small government guy. You know,
well, if you look, no, well, but exactly, he's not a small government guy. His entire economic philosophy and platform is the strong state that's protective of its own interests. He is not about small government cutbacks. Then he's not about slash and burn stuff either. So the problem they've got, and the problem they've been delivered by what wasn't an election, but was really a grudge fuck by voters. The result has been something that's actually unworkable. It's actually unworkable.
That seems to me, Martyn, to be maybe better for New Zealand with Winston being there, though. You haven't said that, but if we all agree that the foreign buyers ban and the raping and pillaging of the public sector would be a bad thing, if Winston's involvement means that could stop, should that be the case, that would mean better for him to be there than not.
Oh, look. I mean, yay for throwing Winston into the mix, but the only outcome that I think could be that National Act would seriously consider if he blocked the foreign buyers ban, the only is to go back for a second election.
Do you think the foreign buyers ban, anyone else likely to go with it? Te Pāti Māori?
Well, I mean, Māori Party certainly won't. Labour certainly won't. Greens certainly won't. So there's nowhere for them to go to be able to pick up those extra votes to get it across the line. And if they can't deliver that, then they can't deliver any of their agenda, and that means from the go-get, Luxon is a lame duck prime minister.
Yeah. Then the other thing that does come, and you've kind of already referenced this, is, you know, we have all heard the saying Winston first before. You know, we all know that I won't take the baubles of office, he'll take the baubles of office. How much is he prepared to hypocritically go against his pre-election past 10-year kind of pleas for his own self-interest? And that's what he'd be doing, because you think his constituency in general has been elderly people who don't like foreigners. Now there's the anti-vaxxers, anti-mandates, and the elderly people who don't like foreigners. So if he now goes, well, let's let the foreigners in, there's a part of his base already gone. But then again, how old is he? 78 or something? He's going to be 78. This is probably his last run at it. Does he really care? He just wants that knighthood, and then he's off and out of here.
Well, I mean, absolutely, he wants that knighthood, and he's going to get it. But he could demand all those things right now without having to budge 1 inch on the foreign buyers ban. He could demand a knighthood, the ambassadorship, and get some treasury, some cushy rock. He'll get the lot. He loves it, and he's good at it. Good for him. But he isn't going, so he can get all those things right now. What would they have to offer him to lift the foreign buyers ban? Well, maybe make him the first president of New Zealand. But barring that, I don't think they've got a shit show.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I brought up this article on the Herald that came out this evening. I just want to read to you. We want to show a bit later on how what they promised before the election, the first weekday after the election, how they start walking it back. Almost immediately. David Seymour has started walking back the 15,000 already. It's Monday. He's already started. His first interview on television, he started walking it back. We'll show you that shortly. But if we believe what they said before the election, this is what gets axed under there's a bit of a Freudian slip there, gets axed under a national-led government. Free prescriptions, fair pay agreements, government relationships, whatever that means, with gangs, benefit index to wages, gang patches and gang gatherings in public places. Can't do it, never happened. No cause eviction ban. So they're going to bring that back. Auckland Light Rail. Let's get moving Wellington. 3 waters. The Māori Health Authority, and the most ironic thing about that is Luxon keeps talking about, well, we want to give, authority to Māoris in their local area. So you mean the Māori Health Authority? No. No, we want to give, money to Māori for their health. You mean the Māori Health Authority? No. Because if the Māori Health Authority was an Otago one, that'd be ka pai. If the Māori Health Authority was a nationwide one, we definitely don't want that. That's the worst of all evil. What about this one? I hadn't heard of this, and how ridiculous is this? The Health Star rating for food is going to go. The RMA reforms, the clean car discount, the Auckland Regional Fuel Tax, the sausage law flat tax, sausage flat tax, which is about urban building, cell phones in schools, Te Pukenga Polytech merger, funding for cultural report, so you're no longer going to see anything about a kid who's been grown up in an abusive household. Remove the Reserve Bank's dual mandates, speed limit restrictions, public transport discounts are going to go. There's a starter for 10. We've always said this. The left do policy and the right respond to policy. And the response from the right to policy is nah, 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 nah. Any thoughts, boys?
Well, they've already spoken about the clean car discount today, that it's gone by December 31st. And one of the things that I saw is what happened to EV sales in Germany when the same thing happened. And sales of those new vehicles plummeted.
Of course.
Anecdotally, in the EV groups that I'm in, I'm already seeing people contacting dealers for cars that they've ordered that won't make it before the end of December, and they're cancelling.
So you mean like the new Tesla Model 3 is not due till next year? If people have put a deposit down now, if it gets delivered into next year, they won't be applicable for that discount. Is that what you're saying?
No, because they don't get the VIN number until the car's in transit. So it doesn't matter if you've pre-ordered it or whatever. You've got to have the VIN number to register it for the rebate. And if it's not coming through before then, if people's deliveries change, well, dealers are already saying, you might want to cancel your order. We'll refund it if we have to. That sort of thing. So that's already having an effect, and it's short-term thinking. They kept on going that we're getting rid of it because it's not revenue neutral like it was promised. Yet last month it made $2 million. It's the first time it's happened, but it's showing the trend. And they still have to stick to these things if they're going to hit the climate targets that they have already agreed to.
So that means it's like a business who loses money for the first 2, 3, 4 years, and then it starts to slowly get into profit, and then it takes off. It's starting to get into profit now, the thing. Right, gotcha. Wow.
It's working. Like, there's been a massive uptick in EVs. They've been bought new. They'll filter through to the second-hand market, which was the entire idea of the policy. And for people saying, oh, well, we can't buy utes anymore. The Ford Ranger was still the number one selling car this year, which drives me fucking mental. So yeah, it's culture war. It's stoking that urban versus rural divide. That hardworking Kiwi who can't afford an EV can afford a $75,000 Ford Raptor. He's just a hardworking tradie, and there's nothing out there for him. Don't worry about the electric utes that are there or the electric panel vans. It's not the solution for all people, but it can be a solution for a lot of people if you use the tools you're given to get it to happen. That's an issue that I follow quite closely. But I think it's a sign that they are going to have to try and make good on these things. And it's all been sloganeering. It's all been bumper stickers. And they're going to find rapidly that they can't get all these promises across the line, or it's going to be the laws of unintended consequences all the way through. So
I don't have a problem with national winning. Let's be quite clear about that. That's democracy. I respect the process. I respect we are a very lucky country to be one of only 100 democracies around the world. I love our democracy, and we get the result that we do. What I'm incandescent with rage about is that they won with such vapid and venal policies. That list that you just came up with there, that's all lobbyist bullshit. Those are promises to lobbyists packaged so that they are sellable to bumper stickers. The 5-star that's big sugar. The fat foreign buyers lifting, well, that's the real estate industry. All of these are connected in some way. The clean car discount, what the real question over that is, who is putting the big dollars into National and ACT coffers? Because the only people who benefit from removing that clean car are the petrol companies. That's who benefits. Every one of, and this is what I think we're going to see with National, a tsunami of crony capitalism where donors suddenly get to write the policy as lobbyists for National. And that's why we talk about the unintended consequences. Oh, we'll get shitloads of them because they're not solutions to problems. They're solutions trying to find a problem, right? They're all written by people who've got a venal self-interest in that particular outcome. So National's going to ram through a whole bunch of this. When they can't get the revenue, they're going to start the privatization agenda, and you'll see public-private partnerships springing up everywhere. And none of these ideas are going to fucking fix the problems. That's what's just so insane, that people were so angry with Labour, so angry with post-COVID bitterness, so angry at the incremental nothings that Labour managed to produce. And every step of the way, Chippy managed to fuck up the campaign. There was so much of that people just went, I'm not voting. And, low voter turnout. It was lower than 2017 when Labour just scraped over the line. So a lower voter turnout than 2017. And people just would, in the end, didn't believe Labour. And where we've really made the losses is in the working classes. Middle class Labour people stuck with Labour. The working classes just didn't vote or they walked off. And you can understand their animosity and you can understand their frustration because they're economically getting screwed. Every time you go to the supermarket, you feel like you're getting mugged. Every time you fill up your car, you feel like you're getting mugged. No one's done any of the long-term funding to fix these fundamental problems. And so when Labour tried a half-assed attempt and was quite timid with it all, it fell over and bit us in the ass.
Yeah, I think timidity is the thing, isn't it? Nothing to vote for. Give us something to vote for. And every time you heard Luxon saying we have a different way of funding, and no fucking journalist went, "Oh, what is that way? What is that way? Oh, public-private partnerships. Oh, privatization." No one, not a single journalist, when he said that 1,000 times, like not a single time did anyone go, could you expand on what that means when you say a different way of funding? And it's PPP and it's privatization. That's really all that's left. Sorry, Joe.
Do you know Chippy's best campaign speech was his concession speech?
Doesn't that
he rattled off some of the things that should have been screamed from the rooftops for the last
Absolutely.
We built more houses than anybody. Yes. We kept 20,000 of you alive. We kept you in your jobs. Businesses afloat. All of that sort of stuff. But it was right at the end. Like Luxon was so relentlessly on message with his, it's about low and middle income earners, tax relief. That's a lie. We know it's a lie. We've shown it's a lie. Eventually, the CTU came in and did what Labour never did, which was point at the fucking numbers and go, it does not compute. But it was all too late.
Yes.
It was all so late. I'd already voted by the time that came out. These guys are still campaigning like election day is the main event. And for a lot of people, that's too late.
Yeah.
And I just think that they were never prepared to front foot and argue things. I mean, Three Waters was about pipes, for Christ's sakes. How did that become an existential race war? Co-governance is a structure that National and ACT created. How did that become a secret radical agenda of the Maori elites to take over democracy? I mean, because they didn't have the courage to argue up front. The void was filled by AstroTurf dark money, and they created the agenda, and they sold people, the end of Western civilization as we know it. And I think if you weren't prepared to front foot things, then what are you standing for? And when Chippy ruled out the wealth tax, I just think a lot of people went, well, what's the point in voting if you're not going to tax the mega wealthy to pay for the infrastructure that we so desperately need? Then what's the point?
You've just mentioned something. Some people are going to think I'm going a bit OTT here, but you need to stick with me because you just mentioned the attack, for example, on the Māori elite. This nefarious, evil group of people that are controlling everything. Bear with me, baby birds. I'm not going as strong as it sounds when I say the very first sentence. But there is a really interesting
Jesus, hold on. Whoa, Pat,
bear with me. There's a really interesting documentary on Netflix right now. It's only 58 minutes long. I suggest everybody watch this. It's called Ordinary Men, The Forgotten Holocaust. And it's a story about the ordinary men in Germany, the dentists, the bakers, the rubbishmen, everything, who got called into the private police, who were the people who started shooting and killing Jews on, after they dug their own death pits. They look at one particular police unit who were responsible for something like 38,000 Jewish murders and sending another 45,000 to the camps, right? So 70, 80,000 people by a bunch of bakers and chemists and plumbers and that kind of stuff. And the thing I was thinking about when I was watching this, and this is why I'm not going too far, people, I'm not saying these Nazis are now in control, but what I am wondering is on 1933 was kind of when Nazi Germany started. And sure, you know this better than me, so correct me if I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. But there would have been a day one. There would have been a day one prior to 1933 where people were sitting around the table having some ideas and questioning, we want to go in this direction. So it's not Nazi Germany. It's not Holocaust in the 40s Germany. It's 5, 10, 15, 18, 20 years before. Now, that kind of conversation has probably happened in countries all over the world throughout history, but it doesn't get to the end goal that they got to, which was Nazi Germany in 1942. And I just wonder, on day one, what were those conversations? What were being said around the table by 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 people that eventually led to a point of the others being exterminated? There was a quote in that in the documentary. And it's a German, I think he's a sociologist or a historian, and he talks about how what happened with these police officers, they first of all, they made the businesses, they call it Aryanized, right? So more German. They made the Jewish businesses German. They made them whiter, you might say, Aryanized. It all happened out in the public. It wasn't a secret. It reinforced the division that was already there. And then they said this, they are them while we are the others. So they were able to pitch it as us and them, which then led into dehumanizing, which then led into concentration camps a long way down the path. And the reason I'm saying I'm not trying to be overly dramatic here, but the stuff we've been hearing in this election, whether it's from an official party who now wants to have a referendum on the treaty, or whether it's from a group like Julian Batchelor, is this day one? Or are we 3 years into a 13-year, what could be something horrific down the way? And does it mean anything, or is it all just politicking? Marty?
I don't think we're on that road yet, and I don't think that we've begun the first journeys to it. I think there are a whole bunch of unique factors that produced where Germany went. But I think that where we are is, how do we win back those people and provide a vision for New Zealand that they feel included with and they feel positive about? I think that's where the left need to go as a debate, not this fear of, oh shit, we're going on a road to fascism. I think that the right wing damage these fucking morons are about to conduct upon this country, if they get half their policy platform through, they're all dangerous enough without having to give it the name fascism. I like it's enough of a monster of what damage is going to be caused without us having to put everyone in brown shirts. And I think that if you look at the way, you're right in terms of the othering. If you look at the way Māori, Pacifica, prisoners, gangs, drug addicts, the disabled, beneficiaries, renters were all used to beat up on so that National could win. You're right. That kind of language is incredibly divisive, and it corrupts our democratic process. And let's be honest, guys, I don't think we've ever seen an election as racist as that. I don't think we've ever seen an election as spiteful and hateful as that. And I think that where the left needs to go now is, how do we build hope? How do we reconnect? How do we pull that working class vote back? because it's the working class vote that left us. We didn't do anything to materially make their worlds and lives better. Post-COVID, we all suffered, and this universal event, the sacrifice was shared equally in an unequal society, and it's created all sorts of ramifications that we're trying to grapple with right now. And our focus, I think, in the movement has to be not so much the end point of the far right, because, you know, you stare enough into the abyss for monsters, and monsters stare back into you, right? Paraphrasing, but I think where we need to go, you're right. This othering, it's all damaging stuff. But where we need to find hope right now is how do we reach out to fellow New Zealanders and bring them back across? They're not all right-wing evil lunatics. I would imagine most people who voted National Act on New Zealand First couldn't even fucking pinpoint a policy from theirs. They were just angry and hurt.
We've actually had an example of that in the chat tonight. Somebody saying that we don't even know New Zealand First tax policy. I'm going to get into that in a little bit. And we've also had comments on the comparison to Nazis. That's not what we're saying at all. But
yeah,
I do want.
Can I have 10 seconds? Because I'm not actually suggesting that where we're at today will lead to 1940s Germany. I'm saying I think many places have started with a conversation that following a particular path could have got to somewhere quite horrific. Are we at the start of one of those conversations? Now, it might divert a very short way down and not go that path, but every time that something horrific happens in the world 10 years after it began with a conversation. This referendum on the treaty, is that the beginning of a conversation that following? If you follow every worst path you can from that, and you take the worst option, then the worst option, could it go that way, and how do we make sure it doesn't? I just want to make sure people are clear. I'm not saying we're going to turn it to Nazi Germany. I'm not saying that. I think I said it clearly enough, but I want to reiterate in case people are unclear before you go on, Chewy. Sorry, mate. Off you go.
I also want to say on that, right? So we're getting laughed at that might be what we're talking about. It's not. But I also want to point out that whenever the right talk about the left, remember, we're all 2 steps away from being Mao, or we're all 2 steps away from Stalin. We're all communists, and we're going to throw people in re-education camps. So, I mean, when you're laughing at us for that, believe me, we're laughing at you for basically the same thing.
But I just want to add, Pat. I think that in terms of where this country could go in a step towards being a police state, oh shit, bro! I think we are very close to those sorts of boundaries. When you're talking about gang patch bans, and we're going to have this ridiculous and ludicrous situation, they're going to pass this in the first 100 days. So that means the first gang tangi in summer, all eyes will be on Christopher Luxon going, well, there's a gang funeral. You said you'd send in the police.
1,500 police officers, please.
The police are not going to want to go to a fucking funeral and drag people out and tear their patches off them, right? But the demand will be there for it. And let's also remember, New Zealand First has called for all domestic gangs to be designated terrorism groups so that the paramilitary police can be used. There will be a sudden upgrading of the police state, a whole bunch of new powers, all to be used against the bad guys, blah, blah, blah. And of course, it's always used against people who are not just the bad guys. It's used against anyone the state considers an enemy at the time. So I think in terms of, especially off the back of this referendum, look, if they are mad enough to push ahead with this, really that crazy, there will be a hikoi the size that we've never seen as Māori to get up and go, we are not going to allow the Treaty of Waitangi to be redefined via majority votes by all you act right-wing people. We're not going to accept it at all. And when that frisson point gets there, yeah, I think the state's going to get pretty scary.
Yeah, all right. Chewy, you got anything else, brother?
I would say, look, if it does get to something about, David Seymour's Treaty of Waitangi 2.0. I can see that being a Springbok tour level.
Absolutely.
Sort of thing,
absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
And I think that's part of the thing where you see the seeds being planted for something quite bad. And that's sort of a thing where people are going to stand up against it. We saw it a little bit with Julian Batchelor's little traveling clown show.
Yes.
But that was one private citizen's sort of thing.
This is
when
a
it
state
gets into,
referendum.
Yeah. And I mean, Australia showed us as well. Don't put race relations up for a fucking referendum in a white majority country.
Right.
Like, you know exactly what you're doing. Exactly what you're doing.
What we're going to do shortly is we'll go and have a look at some stuff to do with the referendum in Australia and also what they're saying about that. But before we head off and let you go, Marty, we've just been talking about the election. Where to from here?
Well, we'll wait till the specials come in. Let's see if this government is ungovernable or workable. If Winston sticks to his guns and refuses to lift the foreign buyers ban, I think the second election is a real possibility. If they do manage it to sort their shit out and they get policy through, it will be very damaging. The left have got to take a long, hard look at themselves. I think one of the fundamental problems for Labour was that if they weren't prepared to tax the wealthy to actually fund the social infrastructure that a liberal progressive democracy requires, and because of the bloody 40-year neoliberal agenda that has stripped the state of capacity, we don't just need more doctors and nurses. We need more hospitals. And we don't just need more teachers. We need more schools. I mean, we're talking about a mass upgrade of the capacity of the state. The pandemic and COVID proved to us that you need a state that can actually do things. And because there hasn't been an argument for an increase in the capacity of the state beyond just more comms staff, because we haven't looked at more police stations, more police officers, like an actual, proper increase. If we're not going to do those things and we're not going to argue for them, then how are we materially making people's lives better?
Yeah.
The working classes are looking to us for solutions. And so we're going to have to work things out so that by the time we come to 2026, we have got policy in place and ready to implement in the first 100 days so that people believe in what we can do.
Yeah. Very true. All right, Marty, and you're on tomorrow night. Who's on with you guys tomorrow night?
We're doing the election breakdown. Damien Grant, Moana Jackson, and Matt McCartan.
You know, Damien's going to be fucking abominable, right?
I have refused to talk to him all weekend. I have not. Although. You cannot imagine the anguish and the pain he feels of having his pure National Act hybrid polluted with New Zealand First DNA. It's driving him crazy.
I just wonder if you'll physically be able to see his smugness gland like pulsing.
Oh, it just. But Act was supposed to get 15%, and they were talking about 16, and they limped home with 9% because I think the electorate who were wanting to grudge fuck Labour and because they were angry and they went to Act to vote over Act, and then they realised, what is Act going to do? I'm not supporting that. I'm not supporting, and they and that vote collapsed. So their extremism hasn't really bought them much.
Yeah. All right, Bomber. We'll be checking in tomorrow night.
From me.
Yeah.
Guys.
I wouldn't mind being a fly on the wall after those shalom comments last week, Marty. We saw that, all of us. All the best, mate.